Now we're going to go back to citizen comment. I would remind you that I have received several folks that have signed up for citizen comment, and by the rules and the decorum of the court, the citizen comment will be limited to 45 minutes. So the reality is, if you're at the bottom of the stack and you don't get to go, you should blame the people at the top of the stack who didn't say less. So you have the freedom to do that. What you don't have the freedom to do, though, is be unkind. And you don't have the freedom to be disrespectful. There are rules and decorum of the court, and I would ask that you honor those. Now, the last thing I ask for is a little grace, in that I have to pronounce some of your names that some of you wrote on a piece of paper, and you didn't do a very good job at writing your name in some instances, or you perhaps married someone that gave you an incredibly complicated name that I'm not going to be able to pronounce. So if I mispronounce your name, don't be offended. When you come to the mic, state your name, and then you'll have 3 minutes to speak. First up is Phyllis Meckel.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. When I first saw the graphics and read the text...
Sorry, your name, please. And also, could you speak into the microphone a bit more? Thank you.
Phyllis Meckel.
Thank you so much.
When I first saw the graphics and read the text on the Facebook page created by Commander Deaton, I was shocked, horrified, sad, and sickened. I've had time to reflect, and I'm still all of those things, but add angry and a little bit fearful. I'm also trying to be hopeful. I've since read comments from others and listened to speakers here in the Commissioner's Court. This Facebook page, created by Commander Deaton, depicts rape and murder in effigy and appears to have a substantial following with responses that include like, laughter, or love. But it also includes hate. Hate of women, people of color, and people who don't share the same views. I've read comments on other social media sites, and some residents of this county are horrified, repulsed, and fearful. Others point to explanations that include dark humor, blowing off steam, and exercising their right to free speech. This is not funny. It's not locker room talk. It's not a good old boys group or any other excuse thrown out there to try to normalize this behavior. Elected officials and government employees should not get a pass. Their actions do not fulfill their promise to protect and serve. The leadership of this county will be judged on how they handle this situation. Residents of our county deserve better. Also, words matter, and so does silence. Thank you.
Thank you.
The last name that I can make out is Perkins, and I apologize that I can't pronounce the first name. Ms. Perkins, please forgive my inability to read that. You're going to state your name when you get up there. Thank you.
Good morning, fellow citizens of Williamson County. I am Dr. Scheherazade Perkins. I'm a semi-retired business owner and proud 30-year homeowner of Round Rock, Texas, one of the fastest growing, most progressive communities in our nation. I stand on the shoulders of women like educator Esther Weir, professor of physical education at Southwestern University, where women could only teach after 10 p.m., the only time the gym was available to them. Or Lillian McGill, whose home was the Georgetown jail, where her dad was the jailer and deputy sheriff. Her mother cooked for the prisoners on a wood stove. She records a time when a mob of Klansmen came into the jail adorned in their white robes looking for a prisoner, but the sheriff had already moved him secretly to safety in another place. Sadly, her dad was one of the first in Williamson County to be killed in the line of duty. Our history is marked by glorious achievement and horrific atrocity forged by active perpetrators and complicit bystanders. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was quoted as saying that silence in the face of evil is itself evil. Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act. Now, I won't spend time recounting the appalling behavior that has caused many of us to leave our homes, our places of employment, and our businesses. By now, the cause for which we have come is on each of our minds. The question is, what will we do about it? The community is calling for an appropriate response, one that is swift, certain, and suitable as a deterrent for similar kinds of behavior. There's a law of physics that says every object in a state of uniform motion will continue in that motion until it's acted upon by an external force. We are that external force. And we know from our history that if allowed to continue along its current path, insensitive humor will fuel behavior that is not characteristic of the greatness that has built our Williamson County community. We built this community, and we will not stand for its dissolution by thoughtless acts or by the indifference that accompanies it. We call for you, the leaders of our community, to do what we've entrusted you to do what we've entrusted generations of leaders before you to do. Lead.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Perkins. Sharon Cummings, please.
Hi, I'm Sharon Cummings. I'm a citizen of Williamson County, resident of Williamson County, and I'm here to stand against the live PD, because I think we have great people serving as police officers, but you bring a camera and it's time to be on stage. And if there's a camera there, then there's other officers who kind of would like to help out a little bit more than it just is. We watch it. My husband watches all the time, those cop shows. And it shames the person who's being protect and serve means you're going to do this in a grown-up, kind way, right? You don't have to be grandstanding while you're doing it, extra tough, that kind of thing. So in the hope that our police officers would not be, I mean, you got to see how it would, you can't hardly blame them for putting on a big show if there's a camera. And it might not be that way if the camera wasn't there. Now, I believe in body cams just to record what happened, but not this TV crew coming and making a production out of it. Just
Thank you. Thank you, Sharon.
Larry Gaddis.
Larry Gaddis, Williamson County Tax Assessor Collector. On Thursday of last week, this court took up some budget items, and I first want to say I appreciate all the hard work that y'all do on the budget. That is not a light task, and probably the biggest task that y'all have throughout the year, to go through and create a budget that serves the citizens of Williamson County, so I really do appreciate that. I want to thank Commissioner Cook for making the motion so that some discussion could have had about my request for personnel, and some comments were made. I wasn't here. I was fully engaged at work at my office and wasn't able to attend, and some things were said, and I just want to make sure on the record, had I been here to answer those questions or address those concerns, I certainly would have been here, and I apologize for not being here, but y'all had made a comment that person was going to be a floater of sorts for my offices, and I just want to let y'all know that person, the floaters that we have right now, that we have going out to different offices to to fill the holes, that's actually very inefficient for my office and not very productive to have a person that works for the county on the road driving to an office to go to work somewhere. My goal in asking for that additional staff was to get our offices properly staffed so that we could have staff that can take off for doctor's appointments or take a vacation, and then we not have to backfill by sending people out to fill those holes, but that they have enough staff there that they can manage the work of those offices. So that additional person that y'all approved is going to be in Cedar Park, and I greatly appreciate that. I appreciate you making the motion, Commissioner Cook. I certainly appreciate you, Commissioner Bowles, from resurrecting that motion out of the ashes. And I do want to point out, another comment was made that when I ask for something in the budget, it's because I really need it. I hope that's evidenced by the fact that my operating budget, which doesn't include salaries for my staff, but my operating budget, the money I need to get the stuff done in my office for the entire year. Over the past 2 years that I've been tax assessor collector, I've reduced what I've requested for my operating budget by almost 10%. If I don't need it, I'm not going to ask for it. When I ask for it, it's because I really do need it, and that comment was made, and I do appreciate y'all recognizing that. And thank y'all, specifically Commissioner Bowles, Commissioner Cook, and Judge Gravel for voting for that position. It will be used to help the staff in Round Rock and Cedar Park, and most certainly help the citizens in Round Rock and Cedar Park. So I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
John Fisher. John Fisher.
Outside.
John Fisher. Mark Tersdale. And Mark, you're going to correct that for me when you get up there, correct?
Good morning. My name is Mark Truesdell, 133 Painted Bunting Lane, Georgetown. This is the subject of my discussion this morning. I'm going to comment about Commander Deaton's posts, then follow with 3 specific recommendations for remedial action by this body. First, Commander Deaton's unspeakably horrific Facebook posts and Mr. Gravel's November 2017 like of them have caused a decided lack of confidence in Mr. Gravel's judgment.
Let me say this, Mark. I'm Judge Gravel, and you can disagree with my actions, and I'm okay with that. But you're going to be respectful because you referred to Commander Deaton, and I would appreciate if you would refer to him as Judge Gravel.
Judge Gravel.
Thank you.
B, created a serious stain upon the reputation of Williamson County government. C, created a crisis of confidence in the Williamson County Sheriff's Department. If I were a woman or a person of color in Williamson County and I saw a Williamson County Sheriff deputy coming my way, I would turn around and walk away. How to address this stain on Williamson County government? The proposal for a respectful workplace training program is a start. I'd give these additional recommendations. 1, you, the Williamson County Commissioners, should adopt a resolution addressed to Sheriff Chody expressing outrage over the Deaton posts and demanding Deaton's immediate firing. 2, 4 of you commissioners should adopt a resolution censuring Judge Gravel for his abominable like of this unspeakable post, undermining the trust in law enforcement in Williamson County. 3, The Commission should undertake a comprehensive legal review of the county's social media policy. I see it's on your agenda. While well written for the most part, the actionable standard in the current policy is the extremely vague standard of, quote, harm to the reputation, end quote, or, quote, cause unfavorable publicity for, end quote, Williamson County. If I, a retired lawyer, were representing a disgruntled former county employee disciplined on those grounds, I would challenge the action for void for vagueness, and I would win. Mr. Gravel is stated in the Williamson County Sun as saying that, quote, basically the policy says use common sense, and, quote, I don't need to seek legal counsel for what the definition
Thank you,
of common
counsel,
sense
for your
is.
time this morning, and thank you for your notes.
3 minutes.
All right, next up is Catherine Tersdale, please.
I think you folks have seen this. So I
Yes, we
want to
have.
make sure all of the audience has seen this post. My name is Catherine Truesdell, and these are for the commissioners. I'm a retired physician. I live in Georgetown, Texas. Good morning. I'm here to talk about that post. I know this topic has been presented to you at 2 previous meetings, and I know that the Austin American-Statesman first published the article revealing these posts to us 17 days ago. 17 days, and yet nothing of substance has been done by you commissioners or the sheriff's office. Mr. Deaton has posted unspeakable acts of misogyny, racism, and violence toward women and people of color, couching them as apparent humor. This particular post shows the humor found in an act of torture and murder of an African-American football player expressing his freedom of speech by respectfully kneeling during the national anthem. This is not funny. This is psychopathy. Sheriff Chody laughed and liked the Facebook post. And you too, Judge Gravel, you liked or laughed or smiled at the post. You should be ashamed of yourself. What needs to happen now? Well, Mr. Deaton should be fired immediately, not allowed just to resign, as Judge Gravel suggests. So long as he stays in the sheriff's department, the women, children, and people of color of Williamson County are not safe. I'm repulsed at the actions of Sheriff Chody and you, Judge Gravel. I call on the 4 commissioners seated here to fashion a censure on both Sheriff Chody and Judge Gravel. They, frankly, in my opinion, should resign their offices. I'm wondering if the individuals involved in this situation today, as well as the commissioners seated here this morning, are hopeful that this will blow over in the next month or 2. It will not. I am not alone. There are many, many voices that will continue to broadcast this disgusting story. You and the citizens of Williamson County will continue to hear from us until Mr. Deaton is fired and Sheriff Chody and Judge Gravel are censured.
Thank you. Thank you.
Denise Gordon.
Good morning, Commissioners, Judge Gravel, and the audience. My name is Denise Gordon. I live in Round Rock, and I'm also a resident of Williamson County. There are many, many issues going on in the Sheriff's Office, as have already been addressed. What I'm here to talk about today is the live PD contract. Please, please end the live PD contract. I've read that we have commissioners who have said this does not reflect well on Williamson County. It does not. We are better than having live PD on television as entertainment. We don't need this in Williamson County. I served in the Army for 26 years. I love this country. When I went to school, I learned that we're innocent in this country until proven guilty. Why are we allowing people's pictures and their arrests to be publicized and put on TV for entertainment? This is not entertainment. I want you to know, as the chairperson of the Round Rock Democrats, when we met on Sunday, the overwhelming theme I took away from our African American, Hispanic, and Southeast Asian members was a pervading sense of fear. Fear, because they don't feel safe in this county or the country. You can't address the country, but you certainly can address the county. Please end the live PD contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise.
Bonnie Garner.
Walking up doesn't count as my time.
No, ma'am.
I was here last week. My name is Bonnie Garner, and I live in Georgetown. And I spoke last week about the situation with the Sheriff's Department, with Commander Deaton, and you also, Judge Gravel. And what I noticed during the last week is that I was upset last week when I talked. I'm still upset. I'm still scared. I'm still worried. Things that I keep reading that is coming from the administration and government of the county is not making me feel better. Asking the Commander Deaton to resign was not fully adequate. And then I also read that we're still minimizing what happened. I read that Judge Gravel, that you went and talked to Sun City and you just blew it off. You know, oh, yeah, it's just a few disgruntled citizens, and, oh, yeah, it's about politics. Well, no, it's not a few disgruntled citizens. It's the entire county. This is everyone. This is children. You talk about being kind and respectful. I don't think there's been anything kind or respectful that's coming toward us from the Sheriff's Department. You talk about an apple not falling far from the tree, and yet we keep hearing that you're agreeing with some of this, that there are things happening that you don't think are very important. And, excuse me, I get nervous and I start to shake. Ooh. I agree with all of the actions that need to be taken that we're talking previously, so I'm not going to go over it and spend time on it. I want to let a chance for other people to speak. But I want to make a reminder that this is about disrespect for every woman. I have grandchildren. I have great-grandchildren. I have children. I don't want them to be afraid of the Sheriff's Department. I have neighbors and people of color that are my friends that I love dearly. I don't want them to be afraid of the Sheriff's Department. I don't want this community to have this black stain on it that's going to keep going on. It's not going to end. And I think there's been terrible poor judgment from Sheriff Jody. Poor judgment in everything. Poor judgment in the fact that he could have easily fired Deaton. That was not, the excuse is free speech. Free speech has all kinds of consequences. And within the last week, there were 3 men that were arrested for putting things on Facebook that were terroristic threats. And all of a sudden, one of them's in jail. What do you do as a citizen? If I see something like that on Facebook, do I go to the sheriff and say, gosh, there's been this misogyny, there's been this threat of hanging people, there's been this threat of rape and gang rape and torture? Who do I go to? Who do I go to in the county to report that? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you, Ms. Garner.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Nedna Ingrid, and I really could have mispronounced your name, ma'am. Please forgive me. And if you would, when you begin, pronounce your name for me so we get it right for the record.
It's Neetha Ingert, and I'm a resident of Cedar Park. And I'm here today because I have a wonderful 16-year-old daughter. Not usually said in the same sentence, but I do. She's wonderful. And I'm here because I tell her all the time, when you see something wrong, say something. Stand up to people that are wrong. And this is wrong. Mr. Deaton needs to go. He needs to go because I don't feel safe for my 16-year-old to drive right now. I tell her, if you're stopped by a police officer, crack your window. You don't have to roll it all the way down. Why should I have to tell my 16-year-old that? We should hire good people. And if we find a rotten egg, get him out of here. Get him out of here quick. I brought this today because it's a social media. It says this is your policy. Jody said it's too vague. I don't think it's vague at all. I don't think it's vague at all. It's very small print. Let me see if I can read it to you. Parts of it. If it disrupts the smooth and orderly flow of work within the office or the delivery of services to Williamson County's taxpayers or customers. That's us, the customers. Well, it's very disruptive. As you can see, of all these people that are here today, it's disruptive. It's disruptive when you joke about date rape. Once again, I'll bring you back to my 16-year-old daughter. That's not funny. That's not funny at all. Talk about trench coat, exposing yourselves to people. That's not funny. That's not something I want for my 16-year-old daughter. Holding women captive? Holloway? Is she somewhere being held captive? We don't know. That's not funny. Cutting the legs off an African American because he's protesting? That's not funny. Peaceful protest is okay. We can all choose to do it, and we should not have repercussions from our officers if we choose to do it. This is a very scary time for us, and you guys have the opportunity to make action. Take action. There are people accepted into Ivy Leagues. They get kicked out before they ever arrive for things much less than this. And these are our officers. These are people that we should trust. This is very, very bad. Very bad. I tell my daughter that your social media has consequences. What consequences does it have? You can lose your job. You can get kicked off the sports team. You're not going to get accepted into college. I showed her these posts. I did. I showed my 16-year-old. And then I told her, do you know that's a police officer? Her mouth dropped open and she said, he's fired, right? I said, not yet, but that's where I'm going today. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Larry Rydolph.
Morning, I'm Larry Rodolphi, and my lovely wife and I live in Precinct 2, out north of Liberty Hill, where we gladly pay our fair share of taxes. I'd like to talk to you about the budget, specifically some of the FTE, specifically the FTE for the jail. First off, Budget Office did a great job. That's hard labor, hard to get there. They have been very helpful in any questions I had, so hats off to them. So FTEs, I always told people, are harder than budgets. Budgets wax and wane, but FTEs are forever. They will be around long after we're all gone. Through various and sundry reasons, I know a lot of incarcerated people. People, I should say, that have been incarcerated in our jail. So when I saw this, plus up, I asked myself, let's check with the users of this service. I said, how are the conditions? Is the building clean? Is it well maintained? Yes, every one of them. How's the food? Do you get fed? Yes, food's good, actually. Better than some other counties. Takes a little while to get to it, but they're well taken care of. And then the last important question, do you feel safe while you've spent time there? To a person, they all said yes. As a matter of fact, several of them said, if I'm going to get nabbed for something, I'd rather have it happen in Williamson County. Maybe we're being a little too good. But the point being is, I would ask your serious consideration of eliminating some, or dare I say all, of those 4 billets this year, because I think, based on the users' comments, we're already doing a great job. I cede the remainder of my time, Judge.
Thank you.
Bill Kilberlaw.
Bill Kilberlaw, Williamson County, taxpayer since 1979. Last week I was not allowed to finish my 3 minutes in the public hearing. on what makes up the tax rate. The rude, totally unprofessional, tangential interruptions by members of the Commissioner's Court to change the discussion in other directions was appalling. Gravel, I did not answer Covey's questions was because it was not germane to my 3-minute topic. Key components of the tax rate deserve notice. Debt service is 31% roughly. Public safety gets less than 25%. And somewhere around 50% is spent on categories other than citizens and taxpayers' needs. I emphasize needs. Taxpayers are being forced out of their homes because of the property tax. No, Ms. Covey, the often used line that taxes go up because of appraisals needs to stop. If one has $1 million home or a $100 home, no budget, no spending, no taxes. This is common sense. Taxes only occur when government spends. Taxes go up when spending goes up. Gravel, your comments on roads and safety. 2 years ago, I got with Bob Day to move a PEC power pole that was within inches of a Williamson County deceleration lane that had just been built. Pedernales was doing maintenance in the area at the time, and it was moved in a timely manner. These are the things that save lives. More roads do not improve driver behavior. Some of the people you're attracting to move here are really bad drivers. More roads, more traffic, more fatalities. You want examples of things that that should not be done with respect to being in the budget or where things are being spent? This would take many hours. However, here are a few. Underwriting energy loans with taxpayer dollars. Local participation provider fund. Regional housing authority that gives unelected folks in another county eminent domain in Williamson County. And a road example, how about the one in recent history, the Commissioner's Court deceptively embedded in a series of motions the building of a multi-million-dollar private road for UPS in Round Rock, money that should have been used for low water crossings safety, while ignoring the recommendations of your own flood study. The list is long and distinguished, but I only have 3 minutes. Holding people's homes with property taxes to subsidize corporations is the work of a depraved mind. Those of us who lack those, I'm running out of time, but I wanted to make a comment on bankruptcy. I'll do that in the public hearing, but you have to remember, respect is earned, it's not granted.
Thank you.
Wayne Gregory.
That was an easy name. My name is
Mr. Gregory, I'm thankful for that at this point.
Glad to help. I live in Cedar Park. I'm 69 years old. And this is the first time I've spoken to a commissioner's court, so thank you very much.
Welcome.
I'm also a retired psychologist, and I want to address the Facebook post involving date rape, homosexual bullying, misogyny, and mutilation of racial minorities created by Steve Deaton. Like so many others, while I'm concerned about crime victims feeling like they have no safe place and Wilco law enforcement to voice their complaints as a result of these posts, I'm also very concerned about impacts on the fellow employees of Deaton and Chody. Both these leaders have lent the weight of their office to homophobic, racist, misogynistic attitudes that can create a culture of fear and anxiety amongst vulnerable minority employees. Remove these leaders, but the culture they've created will remain in their wake. More than 110 people like these posts. How many are Wilco employees? How many are in positions of leadership? The humor expressed by Deaton and liked by Chody in the literature is called disparagement humor, and its intent is to disparage a group of marginalized people in order to broaden the scope of acceptable discrimination against them. Women, blacks, and gay men, in this case. Leaders who think this is okay until they're caught create a culture in which these things are normalized, and they can't be trusted to undertake an honest and thorough review of the culture that they create. Consequently, I'm calling upon this court to effect a thorough review of the impact of the Chody-Deaton culture on the lives of everyday working people in the sheriff's office, with special reference to the degree to which women, minorities and gay employees feel discriminated against. An honorable organization would do no less. One highly successful and productive review was undertaken and published in 2015. It's an independent review into sex discrimination and sexual harassment, including predatory behavior in the Victoria Police in Australia. Among the findings in this review was an entrenched culture of everyday sexism, coupled with a high tolerance for sexual harassment, and has left many current and former Victoria Police employees harmed, sidelined, and deeply disillusioned. Within the survey, the most common form of sexual harassment was sexually suggestive comments or jokes. We need to know about the culture in our sheriff's office in light of recent events. I call on you to make such a review happen. Thank you.
Catherine LaRue, please.
I'm Kathy LaRue. I've been a resident of Williamson County since 91, when I was transferred here to Camp Mabry. I retired from the Army National Guard, and I raised my children here in Round Rock. I'm here to address the agenda item 38 about the termination of the contract with Big Fish Entertainment. And I disagree with this action, and I intend to tell you why. There aren't many shows that appeal to entire families, but this one does. For instance, my daughter and her family watch it together, and I know they're not the only ones. We've met others at the watch parties. My grandsons look up to the law enforcement officers on the show. They get a chance to see them as they work, and they see that they treat others with respect. The scenes on Live PD are different than cop shows from the past in that they're unscripted. There's no dramatic music or laugh tracks. It's real. They can be educational, exciting, uplifting, and heartwarming. Educational in that I got my registration renewed 1 week before the deadline. Things that we are reminded of. Heartwarming, as in the fire last Saturday night when Lieutenant Kennedy was helping the residents evacuate from the enclave. Exciting, the hit-and-run accident where the suspect hit 2 cars and he took off. And you may have heard, or you may hear people say they don't like the image of Williamson County. They don't like the way it makes us look. But that scene, we saw cooperation between Williamson County Sheriff's Office, APD, and the citizens who helped the law enforcement find the suspect. Live PD regularly holds a #1 spot across all broadcast networks and cable networks on the weekends for the adult ages, the key demographic, 18 to 49-year-olds, and they have children watching too. This is good to see a positive image of our law enforcement officers. I'm sure people will continue to watch if Williamson County is not retained, but they will not see our law enforcement protecting our community like we'd like to see it. With Williamson County's growth at 3.5%, there's no way that they can come out to all schools and visit with the children, and this is the best way.
Kathy, thank you for your time. Jim Dillon.
Looking crowd today, Judge.
I want to strongly encourage you, Mr. Dillon, to
Yes,
be
sir.
very kind in what you say.
Very kind, generous,
And Mr. Dillon,
benevolent.
I wasn't finished. There are people that have spoken.
Yes, sir.
And I do believe in the First Amendment right and their ability to exhibit that right in this room.
I do too.
But we're going to be kind in what we say.
Well, these are all my friends, Judge. I'm kind when it's appropriate, because I'm that kind of person. Anyway, I'm deeply offended, however, almost butthurt, by the grievances that have been aired here today. Some of them legitimate, but some of them a product of just discontent, unhappiness, a liberal bent mindset sort of thing. And the hatred and the vitriol and invective that's been directed by our leaders, leaders of this country, in fact, the Democrats in Congress specifically, towards our president, is a very good example of the First Amendment going a little too far. So, yes, I am a person of color. I have a very small amount of American Indian from 2 different tribes, and my eyes are brown, my beard is salt and pepper, and my teeth are yellow. So I'm a person of color. Now I actually have the right to complain because I'm a minority. I'm being picked on.
You're going to stop. I'm not sure where the line is, and I'm a county judge and I'm new, but you just crossed that line, Mr.
No, I didn't.
No, I'm not finished. The remainder, there are consequences, and I caution you. The remainder of your time is suspended. You can step away from the microphone.
All right.
Now.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Dillon. Jeffrey Moss.
My name is Jeffrey Moss. I'm a former resident of Williamson County, current taxpayer, and a father of daughters. Jimmy Lewis Fennell Jr., a police officer in Williamson County who kidnapped and raped a woman. Michael Morton, Mark Allen Norwood, Ken Anderson, John Bradley, Jana Duty, Dan Gaddis, Roger Harris, Don Higginbotham, Robert Chody, Steve Deaton, Elf on the Shelf. Williamson County is the laughingstock of America and is best known for kidnapping, rape, murder, law enforcement misconduct, and official oppression. And now y'all are adding raping our daughters, kidnapping and raping our daughters, examining our daughters' vaginas, murdering political opponents, cops murdering black folks, drugging children, indecent exposure, torture and murder of Sesame Street characters, torture of slaves, public bathroom sex, and Elf on the Shelf. Maybe y'all should do something. Y'all already know what to do. In 2005, the county commissioners cut the Precinct 1 constable's budget by 75% in a dispute over the handling of mental health calls. In 2011, county commissioners filed more than 20 grievances against Jana Duty. In 2016, county leaders sued to remove the district attorney. Today, y'all have a lot of options. You could slash the sheriff's budget. You could petition in district court to remove Chody based upon incompetency, gross carelessness and unfitness, and official misconduct, mistreatment, and sexual harassment. You could fire the sheriff by withdrawing your support of the sheriff's surety bond, deauthorize coverage from the county risk pool, then refuse to approve his new bond. A district judge would then have to remove him from office. You could urge the county attorney to charge the sheriff with official oppression based upon mistreatment and sexual harassment. Let's talk about gross carelessness and unfitness. Chody has overseen the biggest loss of experienced officers in Wilco's history, about 200. At some point, 56 deputies, including Chody and a commander, were in noncompliance with TCOL. Chody doesn't know, ignores Texas law department policy regarding his ability to fire Commander Deaton. Chody is increasing lawlessness as citizens avoid contact with the cops. Chody projects the idea that sheriff's deputies are a threat to the public. We need to protect our daughters from the Williamson County Sheriff, and now it makes complete sense why the girls had to leave. Every criminal case brought by the Williamson County Sheriff will discuss elves. Sounds extreme, but let's imagine what Commander Deaton does in his free time, and imagine this as an episode of live TV. He walked into a store and bought a Barbie doll to stage a rape. He spent a lot of time creating elaborate rape and murder scenes. He wrote gleefully about suicide, raping our daughters, kidnapping and raping our daughters, examining our daughters' vaginas, murdering his political opponents, drugging children, murdering black people, indecent exposure, torture and murder of Sesame Street characters, torture of slaves, and bathroom sex.
Jeffrey, your time is up. Thank you, sir. I believe we have time for one more speaker. It's the last name Corman, Korman. Is that Dawn?
It is Dawn.
Thank you.
My printer could only make 3 sets, if you wouldn't mind. May it please the court. I wasn't planning to speak today. I took time off from work this morning in order to show support to others who are speaking, because it's not easy to stand up here addressing injustice and speaking truth to power when you normally don't speak in public. But this is important. Overnight, I began thinking about the women in Williamson County who might be stopped by a Williamson County sheriff or other law enforcement officials. I began to think about how this county treats victims of domestic violence and assault, too often with skepticism and dismissiveness. And I couldn't help but think about the horrific day that one of my own daughters tried to file a sexual assault charge against a young man shortly after we moved here 7 years ago, only further traumatizing and victimizing my 14-year-old daughter. I had to speak up for her, for the other women in this room, for those young girls that were here earlier. I want you to look at these posts. As I said, there's so many. What's in the media right now is 1 or 2. My printer ran out of ink after I printed 11 of them, and they're disgusting. They aren't funny in any way, shape, or form. They're sick. And if anyone in public office found a shred of worthiness in any of them, well, you're complicit in the sick and depraved nature of these posts. They are posts that in any other work environment would lead to immediate dismissal. But here in Williamson County, you did nothing. Correction, some of you did. You liked them. And then you did nothing until the posts were exposed and you were caught. Judge Gravel, if you now believe that Mr. Deaton should be fired, well, that's great. But that should have been your first and only reaction 2 years ago when you first liked the post. Your liking and Sheriff Chody's inaction only enabled him to continue to post. And these posts are what we know about. I can only imagine what happens in private conversations or in secret groups in the locker room. Let me ask you this. If your daughter was stopped, no, take it back. If your daughter was dating somebody who took the time to create these posts, would you think that's okay? Would you go, yeah, sure, go ahead, date him. It's funny, it's just boys talk, it's nothing. Would you really want your daughter to date somebody like that? I wouldn't. I challenge anyone in this room to view these posts as anything but the ideations of a demented and sick person. Do you want Deaton to pull over a woman you care about at 1 a.m.? I don't. He's clearly a rotten apple in a basket of hard-working, sacrificing men and women in law enforcement. I have the greatest respect for our bailiffs at the courthouse, for the gentleman standing here, for the people that work in our jails, for the guy that puts his life on the line every day for us. But your inaction on this is just despicable, and it's embarrassing. Can I say one last thing?
Name on the record, please.
My name is Dawn Corman, and it's not 1959, it's 2019. And Chody has to go, and quite frankly, Judge Gravel, you either need to be censured or you need to resign.
All right, this ends the discussion of public comment. No, sir, you may not. Jim, you may not, sir. We followed the rules of the court. We do. We meet every Tuesday.